There it is, the sequel, or I guess spiritual successor, to Battle for Bikini Bottom that we all waited literally 20 years for. Well, was it worth the wait? Let's find out. But yeah, after the success of the remake of Battle for Bikini Bottom, it was only a matter of time that a brand new game by the same team would come out of the woodworks. So now this is Purple Lamp's big chance to stand on their own and show us what they got. And let's start off what they got in store for us with the story. The story follows SpongeBob and Patrick as after unknowingly being given magical bubble soap from a mysterious mermaid named Cassandra, SpongeBob makes a whole bunch of wishes for the town that end up coming true and sending the residents to different universes. Now the duo must travel through space and time to save their friends with the help of their new mermaid friend who isn't shady in the slightest and definitely doesn't have any ulterior motives. And as a quick side note, I find this premise funny since a similar story was used in SpongeBob's Obstacle Odyssey 2. Alright, with the story done, let's now get into the meat of this, which is the gameplay. And to begin this section, the game, as expected, is a 3D platformer, but not so much in the collectathon traditional sense, or I guess classic, but more in the modern day equivalent of a 3D platformer. Like, instead of needing to collect a certain amount of things to progress through the game, you instead just need to simply beat the level you're on to move on to the next one. But that's not to say that there's no collectibles at all, as the farther you get into the game, the more characters need you to do side quests, but unlike a classic 3D platformer, these are just side quests. They aren't a part of the main game. You don't have to do them. But yet at the same time, there's still the missed opportunity for the jelly, which is like the currency and most common item that you collect through the game. And how in the story it goes that Cassandra will make costumes for each of the worlds you go into, but she needs the jelly to use it, or to do it. And they don't do something like, you must have this much jelly to unlock the next world. They just let you go. So most of the game is just getting through the level, but what do you do in these levels? To start off, you have the combat, which at first is really just basic hit X to attack, and that's really it. But the farther into the game you get, the more abilities you unlock, and the more, honestly, really cool the combat is. Like, you get the flying kick in the second world, and then the stomp in the next world, I think. And it turns from, monotonous, hitting the same button to, I can do a whole bunch of things, and it feels really good. I mean, heck, the game even gives you a dodge roll, which I thought at first, I'm never gonna use this, but then, later down the line, I actually ended up using it. This game also has gliding, which makes the jumping easier, and it is utilized pretty well. And I would say the only thing I don't like about it is that it doesn't give you that much time to glide, but it's still cool to be here. Hasn't been here, since Revenge of the Flying Dutchman and the Game Boy games. Let's see, what else does this have? The vehicle sections, or I guess, the seahorse sections, because that's mainly what you drive. They're pretty cool. And finally, we have the, I'm guessing, Lights, Camera, Pants inspired mini-games. And yeah, they're pretty neat to break up the regular gameplay. Then finally we have the bosses, which are pretty hit or miss. You have the boss fights that give a good challenge, like Sandy and Stone Age Pearl. And then you have the different type of boss fights, like Mr. Krabs, where you need to get to the front of a train, and that was pretty cool. Although it probably would have been better with a time limit. But then you have crap like the Medieval Pearl boss fight, which isn't really a boss fight, but you have to get, cake to her guests. And then, the witch comes in and starts shooting at you, and then it starts spawning enemies, and it's really just bad. But I will definitely say that the good outweighs the bad in this category. Alright, with the gameplay done, I am now going to quickly talk about the music. And the music is good in this game. It does the classic SpongeBob thing, or I guess SpongeBob game thing, of turning the environment's level theme into, it based off of tropical music. I mean, this game tries to, or at least I believe this game tries to do something new, and something like Banjo-Kazooie, where the theme would change based on what part of the level you're in. But that's only, I'm guessing it does that. I actually don't know if it actually does. I also like how this game uses music from the show. Alright, next I want to go over general positives that the game has. Those being that this game does have the old school SpongeBob charm to it. And even though nowadays in the show they overdo it with the references, this game does not. They're scattered throughout, but they don't overwhelm you with them. I also, with that old school charm, I love the banter between SpongeBob and Patrick, and how Patrick can also get you health when you're running low. I also like the unresolved nature of the plot. Like, just because you get one of your friends home doesn't automatically mean that they're completely back to normal, and you actually have to keep playing beyond the regular game to fix them. I also think that the graphics look great, as they are very cartoony and detailed, and I also like the little thing of being able to float around in the loading screens. And I would also say that I love this game's sound design. It really does sound like you're underwater while playing, and I really like the ability to replay the boss fights, which I'm pretty sure hasn't been seen. Oh wait, maybe it was in Truth or Square, but hasn't been seen in a long time. Alright, now I'm going to talk about the negative aspects as well as the issues I had while playing this game. To start off with, there's only one playable character, which is SpongeBob, and that's a bit of a downgrade from the previous installment where you could play as both Patrick and Sandy. The next one being that the costumes are just cosmetics. I mean, the game being so heavily focused around them, you think that they'd all have like a special ability embedded into them. Kind of like Revenge of the Flying Dutchman. The game chugs at certain times, but this is probably only an issue for me since I'm playing on a base Xbox One. The game soft-locked on me at one point during the Sandy boss fight, as she would just be stuck on the tree and not go back into her giant wheel. The camera controls reset to default whenever you enter a vehicle, which is pretty annoying. There's a bit too much Pearl in the game, and way too many realistic close-ups. And it is annoying that whenever you enter one of the replayable bosses, you can't leave it until it's beaten, or you have to go back to the main menu. The swinging animation is too fast. SpongeBob disappeared from the cutscene at one point. The music both overlaps on itself and just completely cuts out from time to time. Or I really should just say that the music is just glitchy in general for some reason, because I remember going into Glove World, then going back to the Pirate World, but then Glove World's music was playing in the Pirate World. And then it just continued on while I went back to Bikini Bottom. It was just broken. There were two missed opportunities with the lead up to the bullworm in the cowboy level, but it never appears. And in the medieval level, how they say there's a music contest and there's no Boys Who Cry equivalent in that. I don't have footage of this because it only happens like when you return to levels with side content in them, but there's no added dialogue during the main game on the loading screens, which feels like a missed opportunity, especially since, like I said, they exist for the side content, but not for the regular game. And finally, we now have the most egregious issue, which is the paparazzi minigame and how that could possibly lead to someone having a seizure, since it's all about like the guy taking pictures, and every time you hit the A button and you're supposed to spam the A button, it flashes on the screen, so it just continuously flashes, and yeah, that's not good. Yeah, it definitely could have been handled better. Alright, now to conclude this review. So, in the end, is this the true sequel to Battle for Bikini Bottom that we all wanted? Well, I personally would say no, but that doesn't automatically make this a bad game. And I would also say that this game actually has more in common with SpongeBob's Truth or Square, like as a sequel or spiritual successor. And honestly, looking at the whole situation, looking back, this is what we should have expected instead of a true sequel, since this was their first game and they probably weren't going to bank on making the next big SpongeBob game, instead creating something that would keep their company afloat, as well as help them learn how to make, well, I guess 3D platformers, so that way maybe the next game could be the big thing that we were all waiting for. But at the same time, I could easily dash that hopeful optimism because I genuinely, that if the next game they release, SpongeBob-wise, is not like Battle for Bikini Bottom, there will probably never be another game like it. But I digress. Cosmic Shake overall is a good SpongeBob game and just a good game in general. Just not a standout entry, or in other words... No, this game unfortunately was not worth the 20-year wait. I know throughout this video that I've been saying that this SpongeBob game takes a lot of traits from other SpongeBob games, but I didn't expect it to run this deep. But hey, at least in this new version, Patrick can't screw you over by eating the patties.